Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do a creator request today, which is a smaller band or artist gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their work. I got an email earlier this week that said, "Hey, Critical Reactions, I came across your wonderful YouTube channel where you do great reactions to music out there. I'm writing this email to see if you'd be interested in reacting to my music. I feel it could help me reach a wider audience." Yeah, 100%. That's one of the cornerstones to this program is to give a bit of a larger platform to smaller artists. So we're going to be checking out the song Catharsis from the artist, I believe, Vishal Naidu. Let's see what they're bringing to the table today. I love the quiet notes in the backgrounds, almost like ghost notes on a snare. Just enough to fill space, but not enough to catch your attention. Really great production. Yeah, I'm glad these two lines finally came together. I like how the dominant guitar over here on the right, it's kind of bringing a bit of tension to the mood while everything else is trying to relax everything out, chill it out a bit. Beautiful layering with that instrument on the right. Sorry, the left. The violin. Oh, we got a violin on the right too. Oh, that chord on the ethereal pads in the back. Interesting. Um, yeah, I mean the first thing I gotta compliment is just the layering. Um, it took a while to get into it, which we'll talk about in a second. It's mostly a positive thing. Just a really good slow burn there. But once we started building up the layers and getting into that middle section and really exploring this sound as a whole with everything present, and we bring in the violins, it is just a gorgeously layered piece. Absolutely love it. It's a magnificent dance between so many instruments. Um, and there's both subtle nuance for smaller ideas, which you certainly need when you start stacking so many concepts. It's very easy for things to step on each other's toes and get in the way and muddy things up. So you definitely need those little moments, but the music doesn't exclusively work within that. There are more moving, longer ideas that we hear, especially in our first violin that came in, that fills in more of the space and is less of an atmospheric or textural idea, and showcases stronger elements of melody um, to play within and around the ideas we're already hearing on our foundation in that floor we've built up. Just a gorgeous moment. Um, yeah, that section alone you should be extremely proud of. If you only have 1 minute of someone's time, play that. It's just gorgeous. Now, leading up to it, I thought was really well done. We introduced a couple of the ideas. Oh my god, we gotta talk about the opening guitar line. I love the idea of putting those little quiet, palm muted, reverbed hits in the background. They're not something I would have noticed or wanted if they weren't there, but they are certainly something that adds to it. And now that they are there, I would not want them to be gone. They're just such a beautiful little addition. And I likened them to ghost notes on a snare for a drummer parallel. And yeah, 100%. Most songs, you're not thinking, oh, I wish there were some ghost notes here. But when a song adds them, you're like, ah, oh, that's the perfect addition. It's one of those things that you don't miss when they're gone, but you're really happy to have when they're included. And that's what that part was for me. Those little palm muted guitar strikes. Just a really smart addition to it. And it allows the section to be fleshed out a little bit more without intruding too much on the space. It still allows it to feel empty and sparse and showcase the entirety of the silence without leading to an empty feeling. And it's just such a smart way to go about crafting that emotion. And we slowly build this up with a couple of layers, and it brings us to the call and response part, which I'm kind of torn on. Artistically, I think it is necessary to have it as long as it is. Casually, I was waiting for the next section to start, so don't change it. Vishal, if you're watching this, don't do anything to change your style on that. Keep rolling with whatever your gut says. Um, Even though, like I said, casually I was waiting for the next section to pop up a little sooner, I really think that having this moment to breathe and exist as long as it does is a benefit for the artistic element of the music. And the call and response was produced very nicely. It was an interesting choice to have the softer guitar, electric clean, I think, sort of distant from me, and the acoustic clean feeling like it's right behind my head, even reverberating a bit from one side to the other. Just a very nice technique there. And it's just a different style of going for. A lot of people, when they do something like this, they're going to pan left to right if they want to change dimensions. But I really like this front to back idea. I think it's interesting. I'm not going to lie. It was a little distracting on the very first part of the call and response. I was, oh, it's right next to me. That's interesting. But the more I listened to it, the more I just really appreciated the decision. You wanted to keep that spatial element, but you didn't want to use the tropey idea of panning left and right. And I just think it really works here because it allows both sides to feel fleshed out. The song never feels like it's leaning one side to the other. It always feels like a full sound. We just move from in front of the listener to behind the listener. It's just a really smart way of doing that. And the fourth time that we do the call and response and they begin to overlap and we build on this and we continue to. And I thought this was a beautiful transition from our opening idea, which are these two guitars or three guitars, into our full section with like the four guitars and the synths, I think, and the two violins. This was just a beautiful way to move into that. The song feels completely organic, like it's an entire song. You can't remove any part of this and look at it individually. I don't even want to say that there is a structure to the track in the sense of like an A, B, I guess C, A is probably what I would define it as, but honestly it's so organic. Every section becomes the next that it while I could draw lines somewhere, where I draw the lines kind of muddy because there's just this really nice fluidity between all the sections. But bringing us from our opening guitar to multiple guitars to the call and response, and then the call and response slowly overlapping a bit more, less space between them, and then just exploring this overlapping idea. What is it when we play both these together? Oh, there's another voice that can come into this, and it's just such a natural extension of the idea that allows us to go into this slow burn concept of layering it up until we can bring the violins in and just really coming out with a rich layered sound, just phenomenal. That entire segment right there is totally worth it. My only criticism is the movement from this heavily layered idea back to, I can't remember if it was the opening section or the call and response. We returned back to one of our previous sections though, and while everything else felt like a very fluid movement from one idea to the next, this felt a bit more uh, immediate, a bit rocky. It just kind of happens out of nowhere, and we're just in a different style now. And maybe there's a thematic reason for it. Maybe you purposefully put that in there. Maybe you didn't want it to move fluidly, but I don't have insight into that, and I didn't pick up like a narrative reason for it. But again, like I say, with all these reactions, these reviews, these breakdowns, I'm just a dude on the internet. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, that's perfectly fine. I'm not some sort of authority on music and you should follow my advice. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. So if you intended for it to be a bit of a rough transition into the outro, keep it. Keep doing what you want to do. But if you also, you're like, oh, he's kind of right. Kind of wish that was, a little smoother. That's definitely an aspect I would work on as you continue your skills in composition. I think that's about it musically. I do want to touch on some of the themes I picked up though, and I thought this was really neat. I had mentioned at one point, I think it was during the layered section, that the right panned guitar, it's a bit more immediate in the spotlight. It was bringing a attention to the song that everything else was sort of moving away from. And I enjoy this dichotomy that we have between the tension and the chill, I think is the word I want to use. It's not necessarily relaxed, it's just not tense, it's not worried. It's just existing. And I really love how we kind of built this up from the beginning of having these mixed emotional atmospheres up until we get this point where everything's kind of moved towards this subtle beauty, and this one guitar is still hanging on to that tension, and eventually it gets wiped out of the mix. The guitar gets taken away. This is where everything kind of simplifies down at the end, and we get these beautiful moments of just, well, catharsis, of release. We've removed those tensions. We've also removed all those layers and gone for something a bit more simpler. And through that, we also have these synth pads that are going on in the background that have this beautiful chord progression. I pointed out one specific chord, I think it was the third from the end, and it was just so warm and soothing and comfortable. Um, just a really beautiful moment. And to me, that's the catharsis that the title alludes to. There is tension throughout this track, but by the end of it, we explore the idea of release. And it's just a beautiful journey from start to finish. Thank you, Vishal, for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to have to check out more of your works because this was just a joy to listen to. But those are just my thoughts on Vishal Naidu's Catharsis. This is where y'all come in. What do you think of the track? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything you'd like to add on to what I said, or correct me on if you disagree with anything that I stated? Put your put put those thoughts. I was going to combine those and yours, and I was like, those. Put those thoughts in the comment section. Above that is a description box. In there is a link to all of Vishal's social medias and streaming platforms that I can find. Um, Usually I put my links in there, but for creator request, I always leave that space open for the creators. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Make sure you like or subscribe or favorite or heart or whatever. Anything that you go to and visit of Vishal's. That wraps it up for today. We have an album review coming out tomorrow. Sunday we have a live stream for the patrons. I'll try to get that live stream out Monday or Tuesday for everyone else to watch. And then Monday we come back for next week's theme, which I think is bands that broke up. So that'll be a bittersweet week. All right, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.